And we're live. It's another Authentic Rising episode in the Authentic Rising Society. This is Kathleen Michelle. And today's episode is super important. At least I think so. And it's important because I want to name something that most of us experience when we start connecting with our authentic self. And actually, we might experience it first when we start thinking about like, what is my authenticity, and start reconnecting with that. But then it actually shows up over and over again in our life living from our authenticity. Okay, so this is a really important topic, I think, because it can hold you back, or it can be a stumbling block if we aren't aware that it is normal that this shows up and how we can move through it. So what I want to talk to you guys about today then is how connecting with our authentic self can feel super scary. Okay, it can feel super scary, and I totally get it. I've been there. I still sometimes go to that place of feeling like it's scary. And I just want to name that, right? That it sometimes freaks us out. And the reason that is because it means change. Right? If we're going to be living from our authentic self and we haven't been up until this point, or maybe we think we have, but then in some ways we find out we haven't been truly 100% connected or all the time, and we want to stay connected and live through our authentic self, it's going to mean change. And change is hard. Our human brain does not like change. We like things to be as similar, familiar, predictable as possible. That's what our human brain wants. So when we start changing that up by disregarding everything we've maybe learned before, we're unlearning so that we can relearn, our brain is doing a lot of work. It's a lot of energy, and our brain doesn't want to use that energy. So it's happening, right? So we know that when we are making change, it's going to feel scary, and we might even get more tired, right? Okay, so yes is the answer to the question, is it sometimes scary? Absolutely, totally is. So part of change means letting go of something. So even if we're making a change to something that is positive or we believe is going to be positive, if we're changing, that means that we're moving towards something and we're letting go of what was or what is, depending, right? So that letting go can be super scary when we don't know what the next steps are, what it's like over there, or where to go from here. We feel like we don't have a path, or maybe somebody's given us a path and they've given us really good insight, but we haven't experienced it ourselves yet. And so it's still an unknown, even if someone like me gives you a brilliant 5-step path or whatever to connecting with and living from your authentic self. If you haven't done it yet, it's still unknown. You don't know what it feels like. You don't know what's going to change or stay the same yet. You don't know, right? So letting go is hard when what's on the other side of that is still unknown. And that is normal, right? So that's why it can feel scary. So I want to give you an idea of some things that we're letting go of when we are living from, or we make the decision to live from our authentic self, our truest self, the part of us that might be our core essence, your spirit. It's connected with your purposes and passions, right? So when we decide to live from our authenticity, our most true self, we're also deciding to let go of living from our ego or our fear thoughts, or the identity that our brain has created for us, that who we think we are. So we're letting go of a lot, and we're letting go of that ego and that fear. And even though we might sit here and talk about how it's so much better living it from the authenticity instead of fear and ego and our roles, we might talk so much about how it's so much better, but if we don't know what it's like yet, our brain is still going to be like, oh, I don't know, lots and lots of trepidation. So when we're letting go of that, what that means, what we're letting go of is things like our agreements that we made with others, society, environments that we're in, the culture that we're in, our family maybe, our friends maybe. We're letting go of the agreements that we've made to adhere to their opinions, or that their opinions even matter, right? So we're letting go of that, right? That external reassurance, external validation. That is a hard one to let go of when we're not quite sure how to use our own internal validation and resources and reassurances. It's really tough when we're not sure how to do that yet, or that we haven't really gotten good at it yet. Okay. We're also letting go of the belief that our thoughts mean anything. And that can be a tough one, and I totally get it. But our brain is just like spitting out information from patterns that it's developed over time, right? And it's just data, like zeros and ones. It's just data, and it's programmed. So our thoughts aren't facts at all, at all. And so we're letting go of our reliance of using these automatic thoughts that sometimes we're not even aware of, that have been running the show, right? So we're letting go of that, and instead going inward and letting something inside of us, our senses, our emotions, guide us, instead of this intellectual stuff, right? Like there's a place for that, by all means. Like, we're going to be using our brain our whole life, right? But using a different system to guide us instead of our thoughts. Our thoughts aren't facts at all, and sometimes they're just downright false. Sometimes they are totally not in line with reality. Okay, so we're also letting go of fears that have kept us safe. And I put that in quotation marks because it's our belief that those fears are keeping us safe. And I could go on and on and on about all those different kinds of fears, but there's not time in these little videos to do that. So there's a Clear Your Fears course for abundant living that's online, on demand. You can check that out. It's on the One Moment Center page. But fears that have seemed to have kept us safe, that like we're limited, or there's lack out there, like these fears have served a purpose, and they're familiar, but they're not necessarily serving us anymore, and they're not necessarily true. And so we're letting go of things, ideas, concepts, beliefs about ourselves that have kept us in this myth of being safe. Okay, so we might be letting go of that. We might be letting go of values that others have told us are important, right? And maybe not like verbally said it, but like have insinuated through what we do and what means we're going to not fit in, right? So the values that have made us fit in the past, we might be letting go of that, because our authentic self might not actually agree with those values. Our authentic self has a pretty specific value system, and often it does not agree or have the same values that would make us fit in, at least not all the time. Not with folks that are motivated by values that our authentic self doesn't agree with. I don't know really how to say that, but we might be letting go of the values that we have thought to be important up until this point. And then it's figuring out, well, what are my values? What is important? What is my guiding system? What is my new moral compass? Right? So we don't know that yet if we haven't tried it yet, if we haven't gone inward to figure that out. We might be letting go of the fear, kind of related to this, the fear that if we don't fit in, then that means that we don't belong, or they're not good enough. And again, that's a familiar fear, okay? Or a fear that if I don't fit in anymore, and I'm okay with that, if I start not being okay with not fitting in with that group or that culture anymore, and stop trying so hard for them to approve of me or to get reassurance from them, then where am I going to belong? Who am I going to belong to? Where will I get that sense of belonging that we need? And we do need that, you guys. That is a human thing. We need to feel like we belong. And so there are many ways that we end up belonging. and truly belonging, not just fitting in, not just being similar enough to be in the same category as other people, but actually belonging, that feeling that isn't contingent on anything, right? We can't really say like, oh, they belong because like there's no tangible thing. When we belong, it's intangible. It's this intangible feeling. And you guys, authenticity opens us up to that. Oh, I'm skipping ahead. I'm gonna tell you more about that in a minute. But it does. Authenticity and living from our authenticity opens us up to belonging, like actually belonging, instead of this fake idea of belonging, which is really just fitting in so that we can be approved of because we think that that approval actually means something. We're letting go of all of that, all of it out the door. So we might also be letting go of ways that we stay small. And this can be super scary. Super scary. I can totally relate to this. I still relate to this. This is something that I confront a lot, especially in running One Moment Center and putting on retreats and workshops and all of that, right? That this belief that we're supposed to stay small, or this belief that we shouldn't fully live in our power, might be a different way to say that. Okay, because if we're letting go of the need to stay small, and by that I don't necessarily mean like physically small, I mean like energetically small. We keep ourselves hidden in the background, and there's maybe this fear that if I fully live in my power, that people won't like it. And especially for women, you guys, especially for women who are watching this, this is so much a part of our culture, right? That we are supposed to stay energetically small and agreeable. And so if we live in our full power, we've been getting this message for a long time that is being bad, right? Because we might be challenging somebody else's power or challenging somebody else's belief system. Okay, so this is real and it is totally ingrained in us. So just know that like we're letting that go, and that can be super scary because we don't know what it's like to live on the other side of that fully in our inherent power and loving it and letting it run us instead of the fear that we're supposed to stay small and not good enough and supposed to be always saying sorry and asking permission, right? Like, so I don't mean to mock, I don't mean to make fun, but in case you relate to that, because that's definitely how I felt. I'm only speaking from my own experience on that one. That is how I felt, that I was supposed to apologize for everything, apologize for existing, taking up space, having an opinion, wanting anything, needing anything. Like I was supposed to apologize for my own existence. Woo! Letting go of that is a thing, and it can be scary because that means that we're saying, I am powerful and I agree to live in my full power. So we're letting go of all of that, okay? We might also be afraid, separate from letting go, we might be afraid of living from our authentic self because it means going inward. And a lot of us are not practiced at going inward. And in some ways we avoid going inward. And I can relate to that one too, right? I still do that when hard shit comes up. I cussed. Hope you guys are okay with that. I sometimes cuss. But when the hard stuff happens, it can be really scary. And I will avoid going inward because it sucks. It's unpleasant. And there's this fear that I'm going to go inward and like there's going to be a monster in there. Right? That I'm going to find out that, oh my gosh, I really am not good enough, right? Like that fear still comes in because the ego is so strong and it's been there for so long that it has its tape and it plays it and it plays us, you guys. That ego tape plays us. So we might be afraid of going inward because we're not practiced at it and we don't know what it's like to do that. It's not familiar to us. It's still unknown, okay? It's still unknown. So when we let all of that, the fear of letting go of all of that, run us, here's what's at risk. And I just want to tell you real quick, the kind of things that are at risk. And I'll share from my own experience, okay, the things that I kept putting off having in my life or living my life in the most like amazing way because I was hesitant, resistant, avoidant of letting that stuff go that I just told you about, all that stuff. Okay, so I didn't know my true self, right? That's obvious, right? If you're not living from your authentic self, you never get to really feel that, like true self solidness, security in that. You never get to feel that, okay? Letting people walk all over you, telling you what to do, or guilt tripping you, right? Or we let other people's needs be over and above our needs, sacrificing ourselves all the time, right? So we let people walk all over us. At least that's what I did. That's what I did for a super long time. I just let people walk all over me, and I would jump through anybody's hoops, right? Anybody's hoops, if they just asked or just even insinuated that they wanted me to, right? I'd be like, oh, you don't even have to ask. I'll just do that. Okay, so never really feeling like you belong. I spoke to that a little bit ago, right? That what's at risk here is never actually belonging, never actually connecting, like truly, fully, wholeheartedly, emotionally, intimately connecting in a way that allows us to be open to belonging. Okay, we have to live from that wholehearted place, and that is our authenticity. It is wholehearted, you guys, wholehearted, vulnerability and all, right? We need that vulnerability to build connection, and we need that to feel like we belong. So that's at risk, totally. We're basically choosing fitting in over belonging. Okay, so I also found that I was putting off knowing my true passions because that felt powerful to me. Knowing my passions is power. It is an energetic power, and that was scary to me. So it was way easier to just do what other people thought I should do or follow the path that's kind of like that stereotypical path that people follow, right? It's way easier to just fall in line than to really live my passions. Like right now, being on a camera, live, no editing, sharing my story with you, right? I am passionate about this stuff. And it was a long time before I felt like I could just be out here and share it with you because I was connected with a bigger purpose. And that's the next thing, is that if we aren't willing to let some of that go, what I was just talking about, all the stuff that we need to let go, we don't feel like we're living on purpose. And then we feel like we're lost, okay? So here's the kicker, you guys, is we can either stay in that ego fear place, you know, we're not letting go of the stuff, right? Like we live in that ego role, fear stuff, and we feel lost because we are, right? We are, and we've all been there. I've been there. I still sometimes am there, right? Like we're lost. Or we can feel lost for a short amount of time by taking the steps into living from our authentic place instead of our ego fear place. It will feel unknown for a short amount of time. Just like anything new, it is only new for a short amount of time. And I also want you to keep in mind that you have a tribe, you have a sangha, you have a community. That's why you're here in this Authentic Rising Society. You don't have to go it alone. You don't. I'm here. Other people in the group are here. Anytime you ask a question, I will answer it. Anytime there's a comment, I will probably comment back. Just like in the folks who don't know about this, there is the Awakening Maitri. Maitri is essentially friendliness towards yourself, self-compassion. So there's an Awakening Maitri Facebook group where you also just go in, you just ask to join it, and I let you in. So it's Awakening Maitri, a community for self-compassion, I think is what it's called. I should know that because I started it and I run it. But anyway, there's a 10-day challenge going on in there right now. And there are questions coming up every day, like at least one, if not like 5 questions coming up every day. And I respond to each one. And sometimes I even make a video explaining my answer because I want to be as helpful as I can be. I want to serve you as much as I can possibly serve you. So that's the same in here. You are not alone. And I will be as authentic with you as possible, meaning I will share with you with vulnerability my experiences so that you can know you're not the only one who's felt that way or feeling that way right now. And my guess is if you went into the group and you said, this is what I'm experiencing right now, almost everybody in the group would say, me too, or I have been there. Okay, so you have a tribe, you have a community, you're not alone. And if you feel shy, totally understandable, about using the community, the society, you can reach out to me or reach out to your friends or reach out to other folks that are like-minded in this way, right? Or some of you might have, excuse me, a spiritual guide or a therapist or a life coach, right? Things like that. So you can use those folks as well, okay? But you're not alone. And whatever is new is only new for a short period of time. And then it becomes known and has a chance to become the new normal, okay? So I know this video is going long. It's actually longer than probably any of the other live episodes, but there's just so much here, you guys, that I just really want to make sure you know, because I think it trips people up. Is they're like, ooh, authenticity, I want to live from that place. It sounds so good. But then it's like, ooh, oh my goodness, it gets scary, right? And I don't know, have you seen that that poster of like the kitty cat, like the little kitty cat hanging from the branch? It says, hang on, right? So I think of that in this situation. I think of that poster of the kitty cat holding on, because you guys, what usually happens is we're holding on and we're afraid of letting go of that branch, but we forget to look down. And it's very likely that your feet are practically touching the ground. It is safe to let go. There is something to catch you. And that might be the fear that like there isn't something to catch you, but there's something to catch you. Okay. Okay. That was a lot. So thank you for those of you watching this whole thing. If you're hanging out in the replay, #replay for me. Give me little hearts, give me little likes at the concepts that you like. Ask questions if you're like, I don't know what you're saying. What does that mean? Maybe I'm using some lingo that you're not familiar with. I'm happy to explain anything to you, or to just share more thoughts with you. Or if you have a personal experience that you want to share, I will gladly hear that and respond to that as well. So thank you for hanging in there for this long video. I'm looking right now. It's like almost 24 minutes long. So thank you, and I'm gonna keep it at that. My name is Kathleen Michelle. You're in the Authentic Rising Society, which you know, or else you wouldn't be in here because you asked to be a member. And there's lots more going on with One Moment Center. You can check out the onemomentcenter.com website or the Facebook page. There's lots going on to further and deepen your journey if you are so interested. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday evening. Have a wonderful start to your weekend, and I will see you around in the society. Take care, everybody. Bye.